Na, na, na. Yo, what's good, everybody? Thank you for tuning into another edition of About That Action. If you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel, please leave a like, and please share with your friends. It really does help the channel grow. But today, I want to rant a little bit. I want to talk about potentially the game of the year and what the fuck happened with all these teams that happened. So let's get right into it. At first, I want to talk about the teams that choked over the weekend, but when I was typing up my notes for this video, as the night went on, a football game happened. I don't know, maybe game of the year. So I was thinking, how about we start off with the Seattle Seahawks versus the Arizona Cardinals? Probably game of the year. I don't know if we're going to see another game like it. So in terms of player of the game, I don't know who it should go to, but I think it had to be Tyler Lockett. The guy played like a god. Unfortunately, I played against him in one of my fantasy leagues, and I was actually up pretty decently. But the guy dropped 53 points on my head. Absolutely wrecked me. Tyler Lockett caught 15 catches for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns just to top it off. But you know what's crazy? That might not be the craziest wide receiver moment of the game. His teammate DK Metcalf, this boy turned on the burners hawking down Buda Baker, who is probably the hottest safety in the league right now. And here's the clip.
With 6 different receivers, and this time he lost one and it's picked off at the goal line. That's Buda Baker. Buda Baker out in front. Can Metcalf track him down? Can he chase him down? And he
into the end zone, and Metcalf just refused to let it go. It was unbelievable how much ground he made up. That had to be 10 yards on a very fast Buda Baker, and he just tracked him.
Huge. So that is a great way to show effort and to not give up on your team. Russell Wilson also looked like he was in MVP form in many of the drives. He went for 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. He tagged 84 yards on the ground, but the turnovers that he had would honestly cost the teams more. So the 2 last picks he threw, I believe one was in the third or fourth quarter. It put the Cardinals back in position to put them in a game-tying situation. And then the interception he had in overtime with rookie Isaiah Sims was huge because they lost the ball and it set him up for a field goal. So those are just some mistakes you can't make as an MVP, but it happens to the best of them. In terms of the Cardinals on offense, Kyler Murray played pretty well. The guy threw for 360 yards and 3 touchdowns, and he only had 1 interception compared to Russell. He also tagged on 67 yards rushing, and he had a rushing touchdown, so that made it 4 total for the night. DeAndre Hopkins played pretty well. He had 10 catches at 103 yards, and he also had a nice fade touchdown. He did, however, fumble the football, so that's never good. Both defenses played pretty well. Benson Mayowa, he had a very costly penalty in the towards the end of the game, where they went from 4th and long and getting a 1st and goal, so that did hurt them. The Cardinals ended up playing pretty well on defense. They had 6 tackles for losses, 9 quarterback hits, and then that also resulted in 2 sacks. Even Isaiah Simmons got in on the fun, the rookie. He had an interception in overtime to set up the win, and that was interesting because the Cardinals didn't play him in the first half. So I don't know what made them want to put Simmons in the overtime, but it worked out well for them. So hopefully that guy is going to be utilized more properly in Arizona. So in terms of teams that choked through the weekend, let's get right into it. Let's start with the Thursday night game. So the New York Giants, man. If there was a choke that I've seen this weekend, it was definitely that one. They choked against the Eagles. And honestly, I don't know what to expect. Both teams, in terms of play calling and how they executed plays, I don't know, man. Both coaches are fried. So this, I know this has been played a lot over and over again, but I kind of want to show y'all.
From the 12, Jones keeps, gets a block, takes off, and he is gone. Trying to stay upright, and he trips himself.
He's reading Brandon Graham out there, and then he takes it, and once he does and pulls it, there's just nobody left. Even Evan Ingram is out there blocking, and this is the only way he doesn't score.
But that was just Daniel Jones running 80 yards and then getting tackled by Casper the Ghost. To his credit, that guy was running his ass off. If I was getting an open space like that and I knew there was NFL defenders behind me, I'd probably run out of my shoes too and probably trip and fall. So I can't fault the guy. And to his credit, he was also the fastest recorded running or quarterback this year in terms of his mileage, mile per hours clocked in. So he surpassed Lamar Jackson, clocking in at 21.23 miles per hour, which is pretty fast for the white boy. So, I liked he also shrugged off that fall. So the guy ran 80 yards, got tackled, but you know what? He finished off the drive with a touchdown. And that's the mentality that I like for a guy that makes a mistake and is willing to, let's finish it off. Another thing that I wanted to point out was that New York at one point led with 21-10 with less than 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. Less than 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. You're up 11 points, yet somehow you let them score 12 unanswered. I don't know, man. Another team that choked pretty badly, Atlanta Falcons. I'm about to get on that ass. How many times have y'all lost a game in the fourth quarter in a game where you led? The Falcons kept the game close in the fourth. They led by 1, I believe. The Lions, they kicked a field goal, so they went up 16-14 with 3 minutes left for the Falcons to win the game. They go down and they score in about 2 minutes. And Todd Gurley, he wanted to not score as fast as he did, but I'll show you the play right here. The guy ran in accidentally. He tripped and fell, and that gave just enough time for the Lions to go 75 yards in a minute. And with 1 second left on the clock, Matthew Stafford, he threw it to TJ Hawkinson for a touchdown, and Falcons, they lose, 23-22 to the Detroit Lions. So that's a very unfortunate situation. I also don't know if this is considered a choke or not, or if this is like a GOTY clutch, but this is going to be pretty fun to talk about for my Cleveland and Cincinnati Bengal fans. So this was a very fun game to watch. Aside from the interception and a fumble, rookie Joe Burrow played a very, very good game. The guy threw for over 400 yards and had 4 total touchdowns. He also had a lot of receivers get touches, which is good. You want to be able to spread the rock. But in general, the Cincinnati Bengals weren't able to run the ball well. They only ran for 81 yards. The Browns, on the other hand, they started off like hot ass. Baker Mayfield went 0 for 5 and had an interception. And on one of the picks that he had, Odell, he did end up getting hurt trying to make a tackle, I believe. The guy had a torn ACL. So unfortunately, the guy's season is over. But, played pretty well. Hopefully he recovers. But that moment from there on, Baker Mayfield would continue to go 22 for 23 for 297 yards and 5 touchdowns. And the only incompletion he had was to spike the ball so that he could stop the clock. So in my eyes, Baker Mayfield went 22 for 22. I don't care that he had an incompletion because he spiked the ball. The guy threw a perfect 22 for 22 for me. The rest of the Browns showed up, especially on the defensive side. They got 4 sacks, accounting for 35 yards, and they also got 7 total QB hits. So they definitely laid the wood on Joe Burrow. Like the Lions, the Browns drove 75 yards to score a game-winning touchdown to win 37-34 in a very competitive game for both sides. So I definitely thought that game was fun. Baker Mayfield, he started off rocky, but carried his team on his back, and the rest of his team showed up, and it was a very good win. The Bengals, they lose another close one. I think the Bengals are a better team than people give them credit for. They're just not finishing their game. So, they can compete with a lot of people. They just got to be able to clutch it out. We also had 2 games that went down to the wire, and they had the exact same scoring line, 27-24. So the first one would be the Carolina Panthers taking on the New Orleans Saints. And then the battle of the undefeated, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans. So I want to talk about the first game with the Saints and the Panthers. Teddy Bridgewater was taking on his former team. The guy threw for 23 of 28 passes. He had 254 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a beautiful 74-yard dime to DJ Moore, who was able to slip past the Saints secondary. Unfortunately, they were unable to get the run game going. They only ran for 37 yards and a rushing touchdown. And that came off of their speed receiver, Curtis Samuel, so not even a running back scored. Drew Brees had a pretty good game. He had 287 yards, 2 touchdowns through the air. He also added 1 on his feet. They were able to squeeze out a close game against the Panthers. The Saints, they haven't been too impressive this year, but their star receiver is out, Michael Thomas. I believe when they get Michael Thomas back, they'll be back for a playoff contending spot. So in terms of the undefeateds, the 5-0 Steelers took on the 5-0 Titans. Ryan Tannehill put up 220 yards passing and 2 touchdowns, while Derrick Henry put up 75 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. But it was, not enough to take on a very, very good defensive effort by the Steelers. Big Ben didn't play too high. He had 268 yards passing on 32 for 49 passing. He had 2 touchdowns, and he also threw 3 picks. Luckily, the turnovers, they didn't cause too much for the Steelers to lose, as they were able to sneak out a close game to remain 6-0 on a missed field goal by the Titans kicker. So the Titans will fall to 5-1. The Jets, they're just going to continue down a bad spiral. I don't know, fiasco, you could even say. They lost 18-10. And you know what's the craziest part is the Buffalo Bills, all of their scores were on field goals. Kicker Tyler Bass, he went 6 for 8 and hit a 53-yarder to score all of Buffalo's points. Josh Allen led his team in rushing with 61 yards on the ground, and he threw for over 300 yards. Sam Darnold didn't have much help offensively. He got sacked 6 times. He threw 2 picks. I don't know if I can really blame this failure or this season on Sam Darnold. I believe he wouldn't be losing this much if he had better talent around him, better coaching, better management. Maybe that was the reason why Le'Veon Bell wanted out. He saw what was happening and just had a GTFO. So hopefully something is brewing in New York for the Jets, because it's not looking good for them. So another topic, no Aaron Jones, no problem. Aaron Rodgers handles it himself. The guy threw for 283 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jamal Williams did a great job filling in for Aaron Jones. He ran for 77 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Adams absolutely ate. The guy had 13 catches, 196 yards and 2 touchdowns. Deshaun Watson, he puts up 309 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. But he didn't get enough help offensively. He was sacked 3 times, and his team only ran for 79 yards. Green Bay wins the game 35-20. I'm going to just say this. We need to get Deshaun out of Houston. They don't care for the man. They're not protecting him. They're not helping him. The Houston Texans organization is not good right now. Deshaun, I want you to succeed. Please find a way to get out of there. So we're going to head back to the NFC East, and honestly, I don't know, man. The Dallas Cowboys, they took on the Washington football team in a game where it just did not click for Dallas on all cylinders. They only completed half their passes for just 114 yards and no touchdowns, and they also threw a pick. Andy Dalton was knocked out of the game with a targeting hit by John Bostic that was then ejected. His backup, Ben DiNucci, could not tell you how to pronounce it, didn't do anything too spectacular. He did have a nice 30-yard or 32-yard bomb to Amari Cooper, but him and Dalton both got sacked 3 times apiece for a total of 55 yards. The run game wasn't too hot. They only rushed for 83 yards total and didn't get any rushing touchdowns. So they ended up not doing too hot offensively. Washington, they played better football. They weren't great either. They were able to score 3 offensive touchdowns with a nice 52-yard touchdown by Terry McLaurin, the OSU product, as he ran by Mr. Trayvon Diggs, the built by Bama. I don't know if Trayvon Diggs just got burnt, beat off the line, or if he expected safety help, but McLaurin ran completely free by Diggs, and, it did not look too hot. This also came on a play right after where Diggs would swipe at McLaurin's helmet, so it just did not turn out too hot for him. On a sadder note, safety Landon Collins is also reportedly out for the season with an Achilles tendon injury. This is a shame because he was a great leader for the team. He had a really good play on Andy Dalton with a strip sack. Hopefully, Landon Collins recovers smoothly. As I always say, next man up. So the Washington football team ended up beating Dallas 25-3. Let's fly out to the AFC West to the Mile High Club, baby. Let's talk about the in-division battle between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. In the first half, I thought this game was going to be pretty good. There was good plays from both sides, but then it just slowly but surely taking the Chiefs' way. When I was watching it, the Denver Broncos were, they were still in it, but they had a pick 6 thrown by Drew Lock to, I think his name was Sorensen, and that kind of just changed the momentum. It did not help that Melvin Gordon had 2 fumbles. One in the third quarter in particular was a flea flicker that just went horrible, executed terribly. The Chiefs also had a nice 102-yard kickoff return by Byron Pringle. That guy absolutely turned on the burners. But, you know, the Chiefs, they win pretty big, 43-16 for a big AFC West win. So they are now number one. Well, they've been number one in the AFC, but they're, like, for sure now the number one team. The Chargers, the Jags, in terms of that, rookie Justin Herbert, he had an excellent day. The guy had 4 total touchdowns, 3 through the air with 347 yards passing. He also had 1 on the ground with 66 yards rushing, leading the team. He also threw a 70-yard dime to Guyton, and what to me was very impressive about that was the fact that he threw the receiver open. The guy was hip and hip with the corner, but the ball was thrown in a place where the receiver had to get open to catch it, and it led to him breaking a beautiful run. He's definitely the real deal. I don't think when I was watching Justin Herbert coming out of college, I was too high on him. I thought he should have been a little bit lower, but right now he's been proving me wrong. He's definitely the real deal. Keenan Allen caught 10 balls for 125 yards. The Chargers defensively were pretty good. They were able to get to the quarterback, sacking Minshew 5 times, and they won 39-29. So let's talk about the Raiders. Let's talk about Tom Brady. So the Raiders and Tom Brady, they meet up again, but this time it's in Las Vegas. Watching this game as a Raiders fan, I was very pleased with the first 2 drives. We got a defensive stop on the first drive, and then when we got the ball on offense, we were able to move the rock beautifully. Derek Carr hit Nelson Aguilar on a beautiful, I want to say it was kind of like a seam route down the middle of the field. Aguilar extended out, caught the ball in the end zone, and I was like, okay, this is okay. We're in a good position. Next drive, Tom Brady and company goes out and scores by Tom Brady just running it up the gut. And at that point, I'm like, all right, you know what? This is not good. Like that was a little too easy. And then, you know what? I was right because Tom Brady ended up curb stomping us 45-20. There were a few plays that I wanted to scratch my head on. The one most in particular was the one I saw where Gronkowski had the easiest touchdown of his life. I don't know what the Raiders are thinking defensively. We put a 5'9" Nevin Lawson on a 6'6" Gronk. This guy has 9 inches of height. What the hell were we thinking? I don't know what Paul Gunther is doing. I don't know what John Gruden is doing. Gronk is going to win that matchup. I would probably say 8 to 9 out of 10 times. That's a very high chance for Gronk winning. You know, like I don't see it happening. I was very confused. There was also a play, I want to say late in the 4th, or maybe it was the 3rd, but it was a 3rd and 13. You know, we were playing decent defense up until that point, and the running back just slips out of the backfield, catches it, and just, you know, runs for a first down. And I think that kind of changed the momentum of the game. But in general, our defense has not been good. We're not getting any type of pass rush. Our run defense is just beyond mediocre. Our secondary is mediocre, and the play calling is just atrocious, so it's a nightmare to watch. I don't want to discredit Tom Brady, though. He did body us. The guy threw for 369 yards. He had 4 touchdowns he had 4 passing touchdowns, and he also ran one himself for 5 touchdowns total. He had a beautiful deep ball to Scotty Miller. Derek Carr didn't play too horrible. Our offensive line was gone for most of the week, and the front 7 for Tampa was just better than us. We weren't able to run the ball effectively or keep Carr safe. He got sacked 3 times by Devin White. So like I said again, the Bucs ended up beating us 45-20. So let's move over to New England versus the 49ers. Mr. Cameron Newton did not have his best showing. He threw for 98 yards and 3 interceptions before being benched for Mr. Jared Stidham, who himself did not do too hot. Damian Harris led the team in rushing with 58 yards on 10 touches. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play a bad game, but he didn't play great. He went 20 for 25 and 277 yards passing, but he had no touchdowns, and he also threw 2 interceptions. With Raheem Mostert out, backup Jeff Wilson took the workload, rushing for 112 yards and 3 touchdowns right before he got injured. That kind of hurt my heart because this guy finally got an opportunity of a lifetime. He balled out, and then he gets hurt just like that. I believe Deebo Samuel also got hurt, so they both are expected to miss extended periods of time. Rookie Brandon Ayuk, he balled out with 6 catches at 115 yards. Not a bad showing overall for the 49ers team that's basically hurt across the board. They did pretty good playing against a well-coached team like the Patriots, so they ended up winning 33-6. Lastly, I want to go over the Chicago Bears taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Nick Foles didn't look too hot, throwing for 28. Hold on. 261 yards and 2 interceptions. He also got sacked 4 times for 31 yards total. They couldn't get the run game going either. They only rushed for 49 yards. The only thing that really happened good for the Bears was the fumble recovery by Mr. Eddie Jackson for 6. Offensively, the Rams, they did okay. Jared Goff threw for 219 yards and 2 touchdowns, and the team collectively ran for 161 yards and a rushing touchdown. Rams win that one 24-10. So I want to go over my predictions from last week and see how it fared to what I thought would happen. So here they are. The New York Jets versus Philadelphia. I had the Philadelphia Eagles winning, and I was correct on that one. Number 2, Detroit versus Atlanta. I had Detroit winning that one, and they barely did. Same thing with Cleveland versus Cincinnati. I had Cleveland winning it, but they barely made it happen. Pittsburgh versus Tennessee. I honestly thought the blow with Devin Bush for the Pittsburgh Steelers would be enough. But, Tennessee was not able to run the ball as effectively as they could. The Carolina Panthers versus New Orleans. I had New Orleans winning that one. I was correct. Buffalo versus New York Jets. I had Buffalo winning. That was right. The Dallas Cowboys versus Washington football team. I had Dallas winning that one, but, they got beat by 22 points. The Green Bay Packers versus the Houston Texans. I had Green Bay winning that, and I was correct. Seattle versus Arizona, game of the year. Really, anybody could have won that one. Seattle ended up losing that, even though they were the pick I had. Kansas City versus Denver. I had Kansas winning. Kansas did, in fact, win. San Francisco versus New England. I really thought New England was going to win that one, but San Francisco said, to hell with it all. We're winning that one. Jacksonville versus the Chargers. I had the Chargers winning, and I was correct. Tampa Bay versus Las Vegas. I had Tampa Bay winning that one. And unfortunately, that is what exactly happened. And then Chicago versus the Rams. The Rams won that one, so I was correct there. My predictions for next week, I have the Atlanta Falcons versus Carolina Panthers. I think the Panthers are going to win that one. I'm pretty confident in Teddy Bridgewater. New England versus Buffalo. I think Buffalo, if New England plays how they played last week, Buffalo is going to win. Tennessee versus Cincinnati. I got my money on Tennessee. Las Vegas versus Cleveland. I think the Raiders are going to win this one, even though the Browns are hot. Las Vegas, when we finally get our players back, I think that we will be a more legitimate team. Indiana versus Detroit. I'm pretty sure Detroit is going to win that game. Minnesota versus Green Bay, just like how it was in the first week, Green Bay is going to take that game again. Kansas City versus the New York Jets. I'm going to take Kansas City, obviously. The LA Rams versus the Miami Dolphins. This is Tua's first game starting, but I love the guy. It's not happening. Rams taking that one easy. Pittsburgh versus Baltimore. This is going to be a very good game. I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh won this game, but I think Baltimore has something up their sleeves. I'm going to take Baltimore in this one, but I'm pretty sure that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a very legitimate team to beat the Baltimore Ravens. Chargers versus Denver. This is going to be kind of hard. Denver didn't play bad against Kansas City until they started making hella mistakes. The Chargers look pretty good offensively. I'm going to take the Chargers in this one. Justin Herbert's looked pretty good so far, so I'm going to keep riding with the rookie. New Orleans versus Chicago. I'm going to take New Orleans. Hopefully Michael Thomas could be back, but if he doesn't, I'm still going to ride with New Orleans in general. San Francisco versus Seattle. This is going to be a pretty good game. San Francisco showed their dominance against the Patriots. Seattle played a very good Arizona Cardinal team. I'm going to take my chances with Seattle again. I'm going to bet on them to win this week, and I think they will. Dallas versus Philly. I'm going to take Philly in this one. It's not going to be a pretty game either, but I think Philly will win a very close game. Tampa Bay versus the Giants. This is a no-brainer. I'm taking Tampa Bay. So those are my predictions. Let me know what you would change. Let me know what you think. In terms of everything else, like I said, if you're enjoying this content, please subscribe to the channel. Please leave a like. Please share with your friends. I appreciate it so much. Thanks for tuning in this week. Stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you. Na na na.